Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Anyway.
Can I ask why you don't do many interviews?
I've just been like a super kind of behind the scenes kind of guy, like throughout my career. Um, Even though like when you get to know me, I'm pretty kind of outgoing and I do like to talk and I'm not too shy, but for some reason, like I was just super complacent with where I was. And, as I got older, I'm kind of trying to get out my shell a little bit more, put myself out there.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate you having me on. And a lot of people don't really know my story. They know my music, they know my beats, but I think it's cool. I think it'll be cool for people to kind of get to know me a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to, yeah. So just starting to,
I
put
mean, you have
myself
one of
out
my
there.
favorite
It's
beats
been
of all
fun.
time with Hit My Line.
Really?
Like Hit My Line
Yeah.
is
Oh,
truly
appreciate
one of
it,
my favorite beats of all time. That's
man. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a fun one to make. I remember just digging on YouTube and I came across that sample. I was like, I have to do something with this.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too.
It's cool that I mean, I don't know, as you said, like coming out, like that single you dropped, Juicy J,
Yeah,
like with the one with drum, like Juicy gave you one of the best verses I've heard in a minute. And
yeah,
I don't know, it's cool that that was the first single off of this like big push that you have going, you know?
yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah, man. Juicy came through, man. He's been the homie now for a couple of years. He's worked with me and Logic a bunch on our records on that side, and he went on tour with us, not too long ago. So we kind of built a relationship up, and yeah, originally I was in the studio with Drum and Buddy and Guap and all the homies, and we made that song, the song you're referring to, Why Should I? And we had the beat, the hook, and everything. And as soon as we had that done, I was like, man, Juice would sound crazy on this. And we sent it to him, and within like maybe 3 days, he sent me that back, and I was blown away.
Crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
because he's always like working. He's like I don't know for the last 30 years he's been grinding. So it's impressive to see. And inspiring, especially like how long he's been in the game for. And to
Yeah.
still take each verse like seriously.
No, when I heard that, honestly, I was like, damn, because there's two rappers
Yeah.
I got like, I don't want to say emotional, but you know, like rappers that were big when like, to me growing up, like my dad and shit. And it was when I saw Bun B perform and when I saw Juicy J
Oh yeah.
perform, you know, like
Yeah. Did you see him with 3 6 or was it just Juicy J?
just Juicy J, just Juicy J.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's like
haven't,
my goal is to like do some 3 6 shit down the line.
oh my, that's great. Yeah. What made you
Yeah.
want to do the kind of like push yourself on this new path, you know?
Yeah. So, the name of this project that I'm putting out is called Homebody. And, that's kind of been me. Like, even though I've had a pretty successful career, I've kind of always, done my job and been happy with my job and, been complacent and super grateful for it. And for the longest time was like, yeah, man, I feel fully satisfied. And as I'm getting older, I want to be able to, put out my own work, and express a side of me that I wouldn't normally get to express when I work with other artists. So one of them is just like showing a different side of me. Another reason is, proving to myself that, I can do it. So, I wanted to make this album. Like I want to do these interviews. I want to do some shows, put out these songs, make videos just because, why not? I want to see what it does and I want to prove to myself that I can do it because I know myself like I'm an introvert, I'm a homebody. But I have a lot of music and feelings to express. So I felt like this was the right time to put it out there. And then this is after I've been working with Logic for about over a decade, really like 15 years, damn near almost. And he's on to, expanding his resume, doing movies and directing and all that kind of stuff. And I was just sitting here like, man, like this dude's writing books, he's making movies, like he's expanding his portfolio. So I kind of took a page out of his book, really, and wanted to expand my portfolio a little bit. So, it's a multiple of reasons, but a lot of it is just putting myself out there and no expectations and just proving to myself that I could do it. And I just hope the people like it.
Was there like a moment, like
Yeah,
not
it's
not a
funny.
rock bottom, but like is
Yeah,
there a moment? Because I love that's truly one of my favorite things to talk about is like
yeah,
I feel like a lot of people just get like that one little like bit of passion. You know what I mean? That one little thing, and if they follow it, that is a life-changing thing.
yeah. I think I needed something, when I wake up every day to get excited about. Not saying I
Mhm.
wasn't excited about the music that I was making before. It just felt like, we've been doing it for so long, and it was just like on the hamster wheel kind of a thing where it's like, okay, we put out one album. All right, time to, make some more beats and, we'll make another record. And that's so fun. Like always been fun. But this was something else where it was like, it was scary, it was new, it was exciting, all the responsibilities on me.
Yeah.
When you're a producer in a room with another artist, you can kind of fall back on their opinion. At the end of the day, like it's the artist's album or record or whatever, and they get the final say. But what I've learned with this, when I was in the studio with all these artists and other writers, it's like I'm the one that has to make the decision. So it's kind of pushing me to be decisive, be more of a leader in a way, which has been really exciting. And just want to stand on my 10 toes. And if it fails, it fails. If it does great, it does great. But just to say that I did it is the most important thing for me.
Yeah, because all right, so when I was listening or reading other interviews you did, were you in high school or
Yeah.
college when when you moved to LA? How old were you?
So I
When
was,
just like when you had to drop out.
yeah, this was in college. I was going to University of Maryland. So I was about 20 years old, 21 years old.
And how old are you now?
I am about to be 34 in a week.
Yeah. So I mean, oh,
Yeah.
happy early birthday.
Appreciate it. Thank
But
you.
I feel like that whirlwind 14 years probably
Yeah.
like I do get it because that you know what I mean? It's like, damn,
Yeah, it's
okay,
it's
like
it's it's one thing after for the last 15 years,
and
it's
then you pull
boom,
your head
boom,
up and
boom,
you're
boom.
like, oh shit, I have to really like, what do I want from
Yes.
this? What is my path forward?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like, I say I'm 34 years old, but in the grand scheme of things, like still so young.
Young as hell.
So
Like
young,
I
young as
have I have
hell.
my Conway vinyl that I'm on, that I have the skid on
Hell yeah.
behind me right there.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like,
Absolutely.
they're in their 40s when they finally got blew up. Like I think that's why Griselda is so inspirational in that way.
I agree. And it's funny when I first moved to LA, we got signed, Logic got signed by No ID, who is, obviously one of the greatest producers of all time. But he also turned into a businessman, executive, record label owner, and this was all post 45 years old. And I feel like, No ID had his most successful run when he was 45, 50. And
Yeah.
especially as a producer, that was like super inspiring. So it's like, yeah, I'm 34 years old. I've been, doing this for damn near 15 years. But it's also on the flip side of it, it's like this almost feels like the beginning for me in a way where it's like a whole new chapter in my life. And I feel like I'm starting from zero. So like when I'm like putting out this single that, with Juicy J and everybody, it's like I feel like I'm like starting over, which is like exciting in a way too. And it's like, we have to
100%. Yeah.
I can't rely on anybody else. This is my shit, this is my career. So it's like we're doing the grind again, and it's kind of, rejuvenating me a little bit, which has been great.
You kind of need that in life just for that
Yeah.
fulfillment. You know what I mean? I feel like art's in a weird place right now where it's you kind of have to do it for fulfillment. I feel like if it's
Yes.
not, it's not working. And that's why all types of music are blowing up, even if it's quote unquote what people think is bad music. It's like, but if it's really just seeing someone living a fulfilled life is really
Yeah.
an important thing right now.
Like directors, like movie directors always say like they have like their main movie and then they have like their passion projects,
Yeah.
right? And so I feel like it's you gotta fulfill that itch, you gotta fulfill that passion side of it, even though you gotta do the shit that pays the bills, but also you gotta, balance that with something that you're passionate about. And, that's kind of what this album is for me too, is, I'm passionate about, playing guitar, playing drums. Like the single obviously was like kind of more some turn up energy shit, but on the rest of the album, I'm like guitar soloing and doing these rock songs, and that's a passion of mine too, to show that side of me to people that kind of don't see that side. Because if you're my homie and you're my friend, you come to the house, it's like a rock studio. I have like 40 guitars, so many amps, drums, and that's what I grew up playing, was like rock and roll. And like, in high school I was in like metal bands and hardcore bands, and so that's also a passion of mine too, is that side of it. So
Yeah.
kind of wanted to do this album, to show that side as well.
I was so happy when I saw you shout out Blue that you had Blue on it. Like I
Oh,
like
dude,
that you
Blue is
had
the man.
the people you have on it are like real like cool rappers who can rap over like that type of like real music beats. Like that's what I saw reading the track list and shit. And like
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Blue, man, that's someone I've been listening to since high school as well. Like Below the Heavens, man, is one of my it's that's one of my biggest inspirations when I first started producing. I mean, him and Exile, man, they just produced the classics. So yeah, that was some full circle stuff. Like Blue, Juicy, like all these guys, man. Like I can't think of enough for, showing love. And it's a weird thing where, I meet these guys and they're like, "Man, your shit's so hard." And I'm like, "Dog, you're like what? Like your shit is so hard, bro. Like you're the one that's inspired me." So it's cool to like know that, you know, they've heard my stuff or whatever and
yeah.
kind of, dig it and or were cool enough to come by the studio and work with me. It's like it's surreal, man.
But producers are, as I mean, I hate that, but like producers are homebodies in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I've
yeah,
talked to a lot of producers, and a lot of them are very like it makes sense because you guys see things sonically more than like through like verbal
yeah.
words and things like that.
And there's a reason we're producers. Like producers are the ones, behind the scenes. So it's like we kind of, if that's your personality, you kind of drift towards being a producer anyway. Like I have so much respect for artists, like learning and like dropping music. Even though I've just dropped one song, it's like I have so much respect for artists, man, because they're the face, man. They gotta, obviously I'm making the music with these artists, but my job is done. After the studio, it's done. But these artists gotta show their face, go on tour. Like they gotta own these songs. They gotta, do these interviews. It's a lot. So yeah,
Yeah.
producers, like, yeah, if the personality kind of goes like, if you're a chill guy, that's you're so right. Most producers I meet are homebodies. So I hope they relate to that as well. Like when they listen to
Yeah.
this record.
Well, it's funny because I'm a comedian, but bro, I'm a homebody. I go to the movies 3 times a week. Like, I
Hell
mean,
yeah.
like maybe that's not a homebody thing, but like I'm just a solo. Like, I just do shit solo, and it is funny. Like, I was talking. You said you're into hardcore.
Yeah.
So do you know Soul Glow out of
Yeah. Yeah.
Philadelphia?
Yeah.
So I just
Yes.
had Pierce Jordan on the podcast. That's literally just the
Oh,
last
dude, so
episode
sick.
I did. Yeah. Their
Oh, wow.
NPR Tiny Desk concert is incredible.
I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah, because they're in there and they're doing their shit, but they have to
Oh,
like
that's
turn it down, kind of.
that's sick. Yeah.
But we were and this is sorry for the, but we were talking about like capitalism and music and how it really isn't just a create for the like. enjoyment of it or whatever the best thing is. It is all
Yeah.
the other stuff around it. But I feel like producers can kind of skirt that line.
Yeah, like producers have the ability to, the one of the biggest things I tell producers, it's like there's no time limit or age limit to being a producer, you know? Like I look at like Conductor Williams, right? Who's having his moment right fucking now, and he's been in the game forever.
Yeah.
Forever. Like I've known about him for years, and it's there's no like life shelf on a producer, like as opposed to an artist. It's you got to strike here and now, but as a producer, it's like you have the opportunity to kind of go in different areas so you don't get burnt out in a way too. So it's not just all about the money or business. It's like
Yeah.
you have these opportunities to have fun, and yeah, it's we're blessed, man. Producers, it's a great gig, man. I can't lie.
How did you hear about Conductor?
Dude, man, he's just shown love, man, and I've heard about him just through the music. Um, my buddy John Momberg, who's from KC, he was Logic's tour manager, one of my good friends, one of our good friends, and he's really close friends with Conductor, and he's been telling me about him for years, like years ago, and I was always like, yeah, man, like his shit is dope because he's like the essence of how like what I got inspired by when I started making beats, like the Dillas and the Mad Libs and the Ninth Wonders and the sample flips and the drums and the breaks. Like that's my shit. So I just heard, man, I've just always heard his stuff and been like, man, he's incredible. And then it was only a matter of time before, you know, everyone else figured it out. And now he's on everything. It's
It's
it's it's
crazy.
amazing to see. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Without
he,
him switching up his style or nothing. Like no creative, like no capitalism bullshit. Like
yeah.
he's just making the shit that he wants, right?
That's what I like. That's what I like because I do feel like the industry and the way that it is dead. And
Yeah,
it just is. I mean, like I've talked about it on the
yeah,
podcast before, talking to people at labels, how like artist development is literally that's no longer a thing.
mm,
Like,
yeah, yeah. They just most labels, from what I see, is a song pops on their own, and then they come in after and grab it up, right? There's
yeah,
no like signing an artist to a demo and like working them and getting them in rooms. It's no, there's no time for that anymore on labels, which is unfortunate
but the
because
underground has that in a way. The
yeah, for
underground is
sure.
doing it where the artists are blowing up later, but it's because they've built such a strong like fan base at the bottom.
And they're doing it on their own, right? It's
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and that's I feel like that's what everyone's doing these days, man, is they're kind of learning that the labels are a bank essentially, I feel like. And if you need that budget or you need that advance, like it's a good look, for sure. Like I'm not knocking, people who are trying to, support themselves and get a bag or whatever, but when you're independent, it's, maybe a little less pressure. You have to listen to nobody. You're owning everything.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's you can do it independently. You just gotta, make some cool content maybe, or a good song always gonna rise to the top. I feel like too. Even till this day, it's like a good song is gonna do its thing.
Yeah.
So
You know what really inspired me, and it's funny we're doing this today, was the Kendrick halftime show.
yeah.
I thought that
It's
I
it's
what were your
he
thoughts
he's
on
rap he's my first thought was this man is rapping his ass off, bro. Like he was just rapping. And the set list was different than I thought it would be too. Like I thought maybe he would pull out like a bunch of like the old stuff like from Good Kid or whatever. But regardless, like he's on the biggest stage just rapping his ass off. Like there was no gimmicks. There was no, he was the main focus. His mic was live, like he was just rapping. And that was my biggest takeaway. It's like don't get it twisted. Like K Dot, yeah, he's having his moment. He's a superstar, but at the end of the day, man, that dude can rap. And that's what I loved about it the most was just the sheer just emceeing skills.
Yeah. It was like at a pure, and I'm not even the person who cares about the biggest thing like that.
Yeah,
But I thought it was cool, and I like the whole I'm a be even ruder type shit. Like he just
yeah,
doesn't
yeah, yeah,
care.
yeah, yeah.
Like he just doesn't care. And I respect that 100% on a big stage because I feel like that's what it's all about. Like
Yeah, like
nothing doesn't have to be
back
corporate. Like I can talk my
backpedal.
shit. I
Yeah.
can talk my shit. Like
Wow. Yeah, that changed a lot, man. Like he's just still being himself, I feel like, right? Like there's
yeah.
no he's not trying to be no one else. It's still Kendrick just
Yeah.
at this grand and like people are like Kendrick was one of the first people. I remember in like 2009 or 2010 when I was just a kid, a student on campus. Even when I heard that like overly dedicated and shit like that, I was like, "Oh my God, this dude is incredible." And I feel like he hasn't even really changed since then. People are just slowly, it was just like a slow, like obviously Good Kid came out and then, he's had these big records, but still I feel like people didn't give him the just due. And now it's like, come on, like there's no
Yeah.
when he got a hit, like not like us, it's undeniable, you know?
Yeah, it was cool he brought out Mustard. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Hell yeah. As a producer, man, that was amazing to see, like that's what I'm saying. There's a moment right now where all these producers are having a moment. Like Metro Boomin, I always say this, like he has one of the biggest records in rap in the last 5 years, I feel like,
Yeah.
Both his records are outselling some of the biggest artists in the world, and then Mustard, everyone knows Mustard. Like obviously like
Look at what The
people know
Alchemist is
Conductor.
doing right
Look
now.
at the Alchemist, bro. Like,
He just
dude,
ended up with Two
Alchemist,
Chains
man.
and Larry June dropped this week, bro. That his name is
And
on.
he
Like it says
yeah.
Alchemist, Larry June, Two Chains. Like
And think about how long he's been in the game. And I love like I heard that video, the Two Chain Shine, and it's almost like a trap beat, but it's still Alchemist. Like you can
yeah.
tell Alchemist made it because like the snare is like a little different. It's like an Alchemist snare. It's not like a trap snare, and it's not like a hi hat snare or a trap hi hat. But the bounce is like a trap bounce, but it's like a Alchemist sample flip with it. Yeah, it's awesome, and he's doing it right, man. Like I don't know how many beats that guy makes a day, but I swear to God, he's had probably like 200 songs come like he drops like 200 songs a year probably like with
Yeah.
the amount of albums he puts out. It's crazy.
How do you beat um how do you get up in the how do you start working? Like do you can you just get up and you don't have any resistance
Yeah,
or
I used to do that, man. I
it's
used to
not
do
writer's
that for
block,
like
it's like producer's block.
it's it's beat block for sure. I get that all the time, but up this is the first time like these last like 2 months I kind of haven't been waking up every day and like making beats. I just like took a little break, but I'm starting to get back into it now. But yeah, dude, I can wake up, make some coffee and usually just get right to it. Like put like Sports Center on or a game on or something and just listen to sounds, listen to some beats. Like I get inspired a lot by, listening. When I get beat block, I always go back to when I was a kid or when I was younger, what I used to listen to. So it's always like I know it's probably a bad time, but like Yay shit, like old Yay shit, um, old Dilla shit, old Madlib stuff. Like just listening to where I love to go, like where they dig. So like I'm a big like crate digger, sample digger, and that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from. Is like listening to these '60s and '70s records. There's just something different about it. And so I'll go down rabbit holes of like what Dilla sampled or like what Madlib sampled or what Ninth Wonder sampled, and I'll get lost in that, and that's inspiring to me. And then also I'll, you know, even listen to my favorite songs if I have beat block, and but really the biggest thing is just you got to just get through it. I'll make
Yeah.
10 beats before I like one of them, and that's okay. I feel like that's fine. It's sometimes you need 10, 15, 20 beats to warm up. And then once you get there, it's like you can't take a day off because every day off you take is like 2 days off.
Did you
And to
get
get back into it, it's hard.
did you get shit for the sampling early? Because I feel like it was like looked down upon. It was cool in the underground,
Yeah,
but I feel like I really do feel like you guys or you were a pioneer in it kind of in the mainstream.
man, it's weird because when I first started making beats for Logic, we would sample like a lot of modern stuff. Like I remember like the blog era days, like 2011, 2012. It's like I'm sampling like Paramore and like Marina and the Diamonds and Florence and the Machine and like all these like cooler, like these were like coming out at the time, like all these like indie bands and stuff, which maybe kind of was less looked down upon because I guess like the fans were like, oh my God, I know this sample, like it's so cool how they flipped this sample. So it was kind of more that, but I've never really got like shit for sampling, which I don't understand why people would get shit for sampling. I mean, that is the essence of hip hop, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
that's
like
how it all
people.
started, you know?
Yeah, like I hate people. I see a lot of like Nicholas Craven having to deal with it and shit, like because and it's like he's created a very unique thing. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't get the hate about looping and sampling.
Yeah, like it's been done forever, and if you do it right, at the end of the day, it's like, is it a good song, you know? And
Exactly.
I've seen people give shit for like uh I don't know, like when like Jack Harlow, right, would just like flip these like iconic like pop records or something, and people get mad about that, but it's like, dude, why didn't you do it first then, bro? If it's so
Yeah.
easy, you know?
Well, using the biggest songs out at the time is like the big thing now.
Yeah, yeah.
If
It's a
14,
easy
13 years later, like
yeah, yeah. It's a good way to like grab people's attention, you know? And I like sampling to me, man, it's such a beautiful thing because, I respect all these musicians, man, like from the 60s, 70s, 80s. Like these are real musicians, man. And I'm not sampling them like in vain. Like I understand like the work that these cats put in, man, back in the day. So when I'm listening to these sounds and these records, I'm like, man, how could I not sample this shit? Like these dudes are too good, you know?
yeah.
That's my thing. It's bringing that vintage, warm sound, you know?
Who are your, because you've said the guitar, drums, passion, like
Yeah,
who are your idols in that?
man.
Your favorite guitar
So
players?
yeah, I mean Metallica is like my favorite band. Like Kirk Hammett, obviously, but Jimmy Page from Zeppelin is one of my favorites. I mean, obviously Gilmore, Floyd, like Tony Iommi, Sabbath, all these dudes, man. Like I grew up. My dad is a big classic rock guy, so he was playing all these records in the house growing up. Like Clapton, and Beatles, and Stones, and Zeppelin, like you name it, like all the big guys. And then as I got older, like middle school, high school, I kind of wanted to get into some heavier stuff, and like my boys were in like metal bands, so and I was getting into like Slayer and like Pantera and death metal stuff, like Cannibal Corpse and Metallica and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I was playing that all throughout high school, and that's like what I thought. I was playing like shitty bars with my band. Like this was way before I started making beats. And that was my passion. I was like, man, I love the guitar, I love the drums, but also love like Blink 182 and like Sum 41 and Green Day. So it was like I had like all the alternative rock stuff, the Strokes, all that shit. And high school, all of high school playing in bands. And then my senior year of high school, my boy Owen started making beats, and he was like, "Yo, come over and like, can you play some guitar on my beats? Can you play some bass on my beats?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like I didn't really understand what he meant, but I was like, "Sure." And I would go over to his house and do these little guitar lines. I was like, "Damn, this is sick." I would see like he was using this program called FL Studio. I was like, "Bro, like, how are you doing this? You're just doing this like at the house?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then he like taught me how to make beats, and this was like oh 08, oh 09. This is right when graduation came out, and I put on graduation. The first song I hear is "Good Morning," and then he samples Kanye samples Elton John, and I'm like, Elton John's one of my favorite artists of all time. And I'm like, bro, you can like sample like classic rock, like you can sample these rock records, like the shit that I grew up listening to, and that's when it clicked for me. Like that's when I fell in love with making beats and producing was just that hearing Elton John and beat and the way they flipped it. It was like that click. So it was just like, man, I can take what I love growing up with all these cool bands and rock and all this stuff, but also mix it with this new sound that I'm loving and learning. I just kind of just melding both together, and that's where it all started, really, from the rock to the rap and all that.
Did you really think you were going to be in music at this point when you were younger?
No, no. I'm 100% Indian. I grew up in a very, very not. I don't want to say strict because they allowed me to play music, but education was everything. Was the first thing. I never thought like music would. Obviously, in the back of my head, I wanted it to be,
They're
but I
letting you play
never.
in shitty bars and shit.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. I always tell my dad, man, like he would take me and my band like out like Tuesday night, school night at like 11 p.m. to like the Auto Bar in Baltimore, like this fucking shitty. It's an iconic place, but it's not a place for a 15-year-old kid to be.
Oh, you grew up in
But
Baltimore,
yeah, so I grew up
in the
outside of
city.
Baltimore, so
Okay.
yeah, in
My
Maryland.
mom grew up in on Charles Street in Baltimore.
Hell yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and the Baltimore hardcore scene, like that was the shit for me growing up, like Trapped Under Ice and all these guys. But yeah, I was playing these bars and my dad like took us, and like I remember the bass player's mom was there, so I would just see like my dad and his mom just like at the bar, just like waiting as they're performing. And but nah, dude, but that's the thing about like the kids and the youth, it's straight passion. It's straight love when they're doing it then, right? There's no like,
But in the
oh,
back
I
of the
gotta make this a
head, were you,
career.
in the back of your head, were you like, I have something special, like to give to the
I
world?
n- n- I didn't even think it was an option, bro. Like to be honest, like I was talented for sure. Like I knew I was a good guitar player. I knew I was a good drummer, but I know like especially in like the metal world and the rock world at this time I was like, bro, there's no way. There's no way because especially in the metal world, it's like that's a grind, bro. Like that's a real grind, and there's no glitz and glamour about that at all. So in the back of my head, no. Like I went to college for neurobiology and physiology. Like I was gonna be a doctor, all this shit.
Did you want to
No
be, or are
plans.
you just depressed as fuck?
I wouldn't say I was depressed. I was just like I don't want to do this, but you know, that's what society tells you to do, right? And that's what like, my upbringing and like my parents really, it's like when you're 17 years old, it's like you can't really make decisions for yourself. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna go to college. Like I was a good student and shit, but kind of because I had to be in high school, like I had no choice. So, and then,
Was that a fight?
luckily,
Did you fight?
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All the time. All the time. It didn't get bad. And well, actually my sophomore year of high school, I like got below like a 2.0 and was like on I was like in an honor program. So like if you got below a 2.0, it's like you're on like you get like demerits. And if you did it twice, you get kicked out. And that was when like my band was like kind of playing shows and shit around Maryland. And it didn't really get bad until college. So like I was a freshman in college, still making beats, and then I met Logic. Probably that's like freshman year to sophomore year of college, and that's when shit went downhill in the school shit. Yeah, because it was moving so fast. Like, bro, I did a beat
How'd you guys
battle.
meet?
Yeah, we did. I did a beat battle in DC. My sophomore year of college. So this would be 2010, and there's a beat battle scene that was going around in DC at the time, and it was kind of getting a lot of buzz. And this was like a 1 year anniversary of this beat battle, so they're doing a big event, and then they had like a bunch of local artists come through and open up for the beat battle, which is like ironic, right? It's like the artists are opening up for the producers, but yeah, so Logic was one of the openers for the beat battle, and I remember I'll never forget it. Like as soon as I walk in the venue, it was this venue called Bohemian Caverns on U Street in DC, and it's like this underground like basement cave, and it's like cold and wet and grimy. And I remember walking in, and Logic just on stage, like young skinny Logic on stage, like killing shit, like killing shit. But I was like so locked in on the battle. But my boy that I was with was like, "Yo, this dude on stage is killing it." And I was like, and I just look up and I'm like, damn, yeah, this dude is killing it. And then when I go back to like making my set for the beat battle, but fast forward, I end up winning the beat battle that night with my boy Owen, who taught me to make beats. We were like a duo, and I ended up winning that night. And then Logic hits me on Twitter, was like, "Yo, heard you won the beat battle last night. Sorry, I couldn't stay, had to dip out." And I just remember my boy telling me when as we walk in, like, "Yo, this dude is sick." So if my boy didn't say that, then maybe I don't know. But yeah, it was really just he hit me on Twitter after the beat battle, and he was like, "Yo, come to my crib," and he was saying with his godmother at the time in Gaithersburg. And so I pull up, and yeah, that's we the first day we link up, we make this song called "One," where we sample Sinatra, and it's like the first song on one of his mixtapes back in the day. And yeah, ever since then, it just been locked in.
That's a cool story. That's a cool story.
Yeah, it's
I
like
love
really
story
some like
I love stories like
organic
that
shit, you know?
because bro, I've done like over 400 episodes and I mean this in the best way. I mean this for the people listening where it's like
Yeah,
that's how shit really happens. That happens more times than you wouldn't expect. Where it's like if you just put yourself out in the universe in these weird ways and test yourself, then it
yeah,
will pay off. It will. And it sucks because you don't believe it until it really happens, you
I
know?
totally,
Like,
yeah. Yeah, like you saying, like you never know what's gonna happen. Like
bro,
people
I'm
already have an assumption in their head, like, oh yeah, that's not gonna work. But it's like you said, you never freaking know until you put yourself out there.
and little things like that change your life. Like I remember I bought a meet and
Like
greet to
that,
a
bro.
bro, I bought a meet and greet to a Conway show when he did. Have you ever done the
Yeah.
middle upstairs in Boston?
Oh, Boston, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, tiny little club.
The
So I bought a $50
tiny
meet
little
and greet.
spot.
This was early. This wasn't even. And afterwards, I was smoking, and I followed him outside because before the show, because he was going to smoke. And don't follow rappers outside, but I went outside. I was like, oh, I'll smoke with him because I like his music. You know what I mean? And bro, like that moment changed my life. Like he ended up like fucking with me, and that ended up like those little things that you just like the universe kind of like tickles you in a weird way, like pause, but like behind the ear or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, this is what you're supposed to be doing right now. And I don't mean to
Gives you a
get
little
all
nudge,
here.
right?
Yeah, I don't mean to get all like
Yeah.
spiritual, but like hearing those stories are important to give it that like depth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's we should say it because I feel like nowadays everyone thinks you can do everything from your phone. You don't gotta have real human contact, but you really do. Like there's nothing like, meeting someone or seeing someone face to face, and that's how you really get a connection. They
Yeah.
always say, networking and all that shit. Like they always say that, but there's some truth in it. It's like you never know, who you're gonna vibe with, who you're gonna meet when you step out into these places. Like you said, yeah, like if I never went to that beat battle, I definitely would never have
And you had
thought
only
I was,
been producing 2, 3 years at that point.
yeah, maybe like maybe 2 years max. Yeah, it's crazy. And he was the first artist I like ever really worked with, which is crazy. Like the first and like one of the only artists I've ever
Yeah.
it's like I said, dude, it's such a blessing because like all these people in DC and Maryland, like in this beat battle scene, man, they were incredible. Like all these artists and producers, but I don't know, man. Somehow like the first artist I ever meet turns into like one of the greatest people, one of the greatest like rappers that I've ever seen. It's fucking weird, man. Like one for
Yeah.
one type shit.
So you moved to LA. Um, One, I do want to know what your
2012.
parents, I
Yeah.
do want to know what your parents think, but I do want to, just to bookend that last part. What was like
Yeah.
the lowest point of like, oh, I should give up on this before you
Man.
like post
Just
move?
like I'm yeah, I remember being like fucking broke, bro. Like broke. And luckily I always say this story, like, man, luckily like this dude Logic, man, always was he was like Nostradamus, bro. Like I always we always have this inside joke where like I call him Nostradamus, where he instilled so much fucking confidence in me and himself. And he was like, bro, trust me. You fuck with me, you move to LA, we're gonna fucking do it. Like he would tell me this shit like every day. Like and the more he said it, like I don't know. I just trusted him. Like it was weird. There was no like moment where I was like, "Damn, I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing here." There was none of that because ever since I met him, he was like, "Okay, we're gonna do this mixtape. This mixtape's gonna go crazy. We do this mixtape in the DMV area. It's fucking blowing up. You know, we got a buzz. Like I'm walking around campus, like, bro, I just heard this Logic shit. Like, you got. I'm like, what? Really? And like every day, he's like, man, trust me, like you're my guy, like come to LA, like. And this is like right after, like, and then when he signed the Def Jam, he calls me. He's like, bro, they want me to come to LA. Like, I need you there with me to work on this first album, all this shit. So I didn't even have time to like think about what ifs. It happened so quickly. Like, I'm in school one day, and then 3 days later, I'm in LA, like in the studio with like J. Cole and like Young Chop and shit. Like this is like within a week, you know, like no ID and
And
all these Big Sean.
you had never done anything like that before. You had never like,
Never like because the studio that we worked out of when I first moved to LA was uh Dion No ID studio, and No ID was working on Big Sean, Cole, you know, all these guys, and they would just all be in. This was like the day that I land from school. Like I'm in LA, I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. We go to the studio, it's like fucking everybody. I'm like freaking out, and so they're like seeing shit like that. I'm like, okay, we're like on to something. But I do remember, man, when I first moved out there, I was like calling my mom. I was like, I need some money for food. And, you know, as mad as they were, like, you know, when I left and, you know, me and my parents had a big argument before I left. They're like, what are you doing? Like,
what
they
was
had to
the
call
first thing they
Logic.
said? What did you tell them? Yeah, what was the first thing?
Oh, dude. Well, I didn't even really tell. Like, they kind of found out. Like, I withdrew from school.
No, they get a
And,
call from the school?
dude, no, they knew something was up. And
Oh.
withdrew from all my classes. I'm filling out all my classes. So my parents were like, all right, fuck this. Like, I need to figure out what's going on. So they like go through my bag and they see this withdrawal slip and they wake me up and they're like, what is this? I'm like, yeah, I withdrew from all, it was tough. It was bad. Withdrew from all my classes. Like, Logic just got signed to Def Jam. Like, I need to move out there. And they were like, hell no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And, you know, I was like, Logic, you gotta talk to my parents. And so it's like my Indian parents and like Logic are on the phone like a day later, and like they're like talking for like 30 minutes. And like Bob is such a great guy. Like I call him Bob. We all call like all our friends call him Bob. But you know, he's such a good guy. And like he really like, you know, we're not doing no bullshit. Like when we moved to LA, like there was no bullshit. There was no partying. There's no like doing drugs. There's no like fucking random woman. Like, no, we're out there to work and make this record. And, you know, and he was like, yeah, like, don't worry, your son's gonna be safe. Like, we're gonna take care of him. There's not gonna be like, we're all gonna be living in a house together. Don't worry, blah blah blah. Yeah, and then for some reason, my parents were like, fuck, I guess. They're like, I guess they felt like they knew they couldn't really like they didn't want to be the reason to like me to stop my dreams because they knew how much I love music even growing up. They saw like as a kid, you know. So they were mad, they were disappointed, they were frustrated. You know, my whole life was geared towards me going to school, education. Like all this stuff like for 20 plus years. It's
Did
like
your dad
everything was
want to
geared
be a
towards that.
musician? He loved music. Did he?
Yeah, he loved music, but there was no
Have you ever
opportunity for
talked to
him.
him about that? Like if he had dreams as
Yeah,
a
yeah,
kid?
for sure. Even my dad is a great by ear piano player, and like I remember growing up, that's one of my biggest memories was like we had this grand piano, and he would just play all these songs by ear, like beautifully. And I don't think he, obviously growing up in India, different gener like I'm a first generation American. Both my parents grew up in India, and like that's you got to think about it, like that's not even an option. Like music, what? Like
No.
if it was hard for me, imagine like you know my parents had to go through with my grandparents, like with their parents. It's like what? No, you're going to school, you're going to college, you're getting a degree. So like my mom's an engineer, my dad's a doctor, my brother is an aerospace engineer, and I'm a rap producer. It's it's not the norm,
You're a
but
musician.
luckily,
You're an artist.
yeah. But just for the story, it's like that's like what I have to tell them. It's like, yeah, I'm about to make beats. You're about to make what for a what? Like I'm about to make beats for a rapper. Telling my
But
parents
your
that was
dad, that's
crazy.
what I was saying though. Like your dad was bringing you to the shows and stuff. So like
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
little thing like that's cool. That's cool. You're like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool.
I don't think they ever thought. Maybe they did. I don't think they ever thought it would, obviously get to this point. But yeah, now it's like they love it. Like they came to all like the shows, the concerts, like them and Logic, and they're like they love each other, and
When's the
they'll
first
call each
time
other and shit.
when's the first time you knew they were proud of you again for music, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's tough. It's tough to say because I feel like in Indian culture, we don't really we show love, but it's like an unsaid thing. It's like we all know we love each other type of thing. We don't really gotta. Um, there's never a moment like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. But I would say, and we got the Grammy nod, couple Grammy nods for 1-800 and like our third record. But also, I think when I was just starting to get a little bit of money too, like I remember for the first record for Under Pressure, no money, dude, no money, and I was living with we're all living together in the house, and Logic was like, "Man, don't worry about it, bro. Like, you can pay me all the rent for this year, like when you get this check for the album. So just stay with me and work on this record, and you don't gotta pay me for like 8 months until this shit come out." I'm like, "Bet." And I remember when we submitted the first record, I got $15,000 for the album, and I was like, "Oh my God, let's fucking go!" And then, like half of it went to Logic for rent, and like the other half I sent to put it in my bank account and sent some to my parents. And it was probably like $10,000 that they got or something like that. And I think that was the first moment they're like, okay, he's making a little bit of money, and then you
Wow,
see
so
it
wait,
obviously
so
like
with
the
your
first album
first
did
check, you
well.
sent it back to your parents?
Yeah, I sent because I owed them money. Owed like that was just like a kind of a debt. Like that
Yeah.
first check was like a debt, debt
Yeah.
payment, and but it felt good. Like off of making beats off of my computer, like it's crazy.
Yeah. Because you
And then
didn't
you
know.
slowly start,
Like,
yeah, I didn't fucking know. And then it's like the first album did well. Like it got like a bunch of awards. Like it's like this is like iTunes, Apple Awards, like all these Billboard Awards, whatever the fuck. And yeah, then we dropped the second record, and that's when it was like, all right, cool. We kind of did some shit. We did sold like damn near like 250K like first week, like second record, and yeah, it was crazy. Back when like
hmm.
people were selling records.
And that was with 1-800 or no?
So that's the following. So 1-800 was the third.
Oh,
So
so
we
you
didn't really
sold
even have,
250K
yeah,
the first week. Yeah, yeah, on the second one. Okay, yeah.
on the second record, and this was just
Wow.
pure fan base. Like we didn't have a hit. We didn't have like I mean a quote unquote hit. We didn't have one, but it's like the way we built it up was like the core fan base, and Yeah, the labels were so confused. Like even for the first record, they
Well, you guys
undershipped
were
us
the
like crazy.
mixtapes. That was the Dat Piff Live era. Like that was,
Exactly.
oh
And
my God, yeah.
the labels didn't know that translated on 'cause they would go to these shows and be like, "What the fuck? Like why are these kids going crazy at these
Yeah.
shows?" And it was the
R.I.P.
mixtape
Dat
blog
Piff,
era. Yeah.
bro.
Dude, RIP
R.I.P.
Dapif. Yeah, I remember like when dude, when Meek Mill dropped on there and like Big Sean dropped on there and like they would like
Oh,
break the website and shit. Like, yeah, that
I
was a
remember
moment.
downloading 1017 Thug, which was right when Young
Thug shit.
signed to
Yeah.
Gucci, and it had like 5,000 downloads on it. And I was, bro, I was like, even
Yeah,
I
that was like
remember
one of
like
our
what was it,
goals.
Young Sinatra 3. Was
Yeah.
that I remember all that shit, bro. That shit was like you guys were really at the forefront of all that.
It was exactly that's what it was. It was the third Young Sinatra mixtape, also known as Undeniable.
Oh yeah, sorry.
And
Yeah.
no, no, same thing, same shit. Like it was called Young Sinatra 3 Undeniable, and it's dude, I remember, yeah, like we kind of like broke that pip there for a second too, and we were like, hell yeah, that was like on our bucket list to like crash the website, you know?
Mhm.
But that was, man, great times, man, like
I
great time.
also
And
want
it's
to shout
cool
out
because
Webby. Good friend of mine, Webby, also.
oh, dude, yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Shout
Shout out
out
to
Webby.
Webby, man. Shout out to all those guys, man. Like back in the day, who are inspirations to us, man. Like, dude, like I remember our first tour was with this group called OCD, Moosh and Twist. Those are my guys, man. Webby, like Mike Stud, like Skizzy Mars, like all these dudes. I mean, even G-Eazy, man. Like G-Eazy came up, Chance the Rapper came up all through that same blog era shit, man. And that's when it really you can tell. That's like one of the first you can tell it panned out. Like Logic, G-Eazy, Chance. It's like, oh, dude, they actually went from the blogs to mainstream. You know, it was like a
Yeah,
viable option now.
yeah. So then the third one was the one that was
And then the third one was, yeah, our album Everybody. And that's when we had 1-800. And we had, I mean, that's the last song we made for the album. And we had no idea like what it would do. It was more so he wanted to do it for his fans. Because it's obviously it's a deep song, you know, it's a suicide prevention song. So it's we're not making that like, oh, we got a hit on our hands. Like
yeah.
this was a more so like something for his fans that because he knew that his fans would relate to it. But man, it just people. That's when we realized a lot of people resonate with the same problems. You know, a lot of people could relate to it, and yeah, it just took on a life of its own. It had legs, and man, yeah, it went to like number one on pop radio. Like, no fucking idea that would happen. We just that was literally the last song we made, and we're excited about all these other songs on the record that you know did well, but it wasn't that. But
Where did the beat come from?
so the beat came from Logic had a session with the Chainsmokers actually, and they did they had this beat, but it was more like a dance beat, but the chords were there, and they and so Logic did a session with them, and he was like, "Oh, I want this beat, like da da." Da. And so and then he did like a rendition of the hook for them, and they were like, "Yeah, like I love this hook, but like we're thinking of doing a more like upbeat kind of song, like it was a dance record." And so that yeah, so Logic was like, "Okay, cool." And then like fast forward a couple of weeks, he was like, "Man, I have this hook. Can you help me produce it?" And so I was like, "Okay, cool." And yeah, like he had like a demo, I guess the demo reference with the chords and stuff like that. So he kind of reworked the chords, and then I put on like I kind of did the drums like maybe 10 times, like 10 different versions of the drums. And the one you hear, it's probably like the 10th or 11th version, and it's the most simple version of it, just like a kick and a snare and like one hi-hat hit and it worked. Like I think I was just trying to do too much. Like before, it was a lot going on. It wasn't about the beat really. It was about what the lyrics were being said. You know. So yeah, we just did that, man, and then we got strings on it. We just wanted to make it. I mean, that's what we were doing anyway. Like on that record, we were making everything feel like grand. You know, we live singers, live instrumentalist, choirs, orchestra, all that stuff. So that kind of took it, made it big, and then we got Alessia Cara and then Khalid on it, and that was like a perfect time for them too because they were building their buzz too at that time. So there's so many. It's like a perfect storm. You can't really write that shit or predict it.
Mhm.
It kind of just happens, you know.
Yeah, just like everything.
But that's yeah, exactly. Like that's the
That's
best
the
thing. Like
moral of
like we are
that's the
talking about
moral of the
earlier.
story.
Yeah, like you never know what's gonna happen, right? It's like we
You
are
just got
talking
to
about
keep
before.
doing
Like
it. Yeah.
if you never went out and
Smokers could have
smoked
said
with
no, and he
Conway,
could have
like
fucking thrown that shit out. He could have just been like,
we,
nah.
yeah, no, he's so smart. Like
Or
he
you could have used
definitely could
drums
have.
number three, and it could have never touched people in that certain way.
I was thinking about that. It's like even if a kick or a snare is different, the song might not be a hit.
Yeah.
Like every little frequency and sonic somehow matters, you know? Like if I used maybe the kick underneath the kick that I used, who knows if it would have panned out the
Yeah.
way it did.
Yeah.
It's like every little thing like matters in a weird way. Even though you shouldn't take it that seriously, on the flip side of it, it's like every little sound does really matter, you know?
I think about that so much. I mean, I've never had anything even close to the level of that, but I've thought about that. The things that go really, really well, you
Mhm.
afterwards, you can see exactly why they went well. But in that moment, you could never think about everything that led it to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, like I love like reverse engineering shit, like
Yeah.
songs and beats, and seeing why, like what made this song good, or what made this song popular, like why, I've heard these fucking same four chords in every pop song ever, but why in this particular song does it work so good? Or it's like, especially when I first started making beats, I used to like reverse engineer Dilla beats and shit, and remake Dilla beats and figure out how and why he did it, and that this I would like literally take his wave and like line up kicks to his kicks and snares to his snares, and then to see where it was on the grid, how, if it was behind the grid, if it was on the grid, like some were on, some were. So it's like I did all this reverse engineering to figure out what makes a song good, you know?
Yeah.
And that's so fun to me. Like that's the coolest shit to me is figuring out like has to be a why. It's like you can't just make beats all day. It's like you got to be efficient with it in a way too, you know?
But also, it's like everything because at this point, it's like I don't make music. I don't know, people like what I like in a cool way, but it's
Yeah.
like, it's pure authenticity no matter what. It's like when that person fully gets into the flow state, it's like,
Yeah.
it's
Flow
like
state, man.
when that person, when no, you have, for something to be popular, you have to have been in the flow state. I truly believe
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I agree because you hear a lot of the time where it's like, "Oh yeah, this took me like 20 minutes to make."
Hmm.
And that 20 minutes though, it ain't no bullshit. That's some 20 minutes of flow state. That's like 20 minutes of boom, 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 boom. When you're in flow state, that's how it should be, right? It should be
Yeah.
like a flow state shouldn't be 3 hours. I mean, it can be 3 hours maybe or a week. Like that's not
It's
flow
like
state.
being
Flow
in a
state should be
psychedelic
30 minutes.
experience. I don't know if you've ever taken
Yeah,
psychedelics, but it's like
yeah,
it's very similar to that in a weird way. Like last thing to wrap that up, and then one more question and
yeah,
and this. Have you ever heard the Dirk remix to your song?
yeah. I've heard the. Have I heard the
One eight
which
hundred
song?
Vultures,
I don't know if I've heard the Dirk
where he
remix.
goes,
I've heard the
"It's
Fat
gonna be a
Trell.
homicide. It's gonna be a
Yeah, 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 yeah,
homicide."
yeah, yeah. Oh my God, yeah. So I think is Fat Trell on that record too?
I think he might be. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because that's where I heard. Yeah, dude, that's just incredible to be honest. That shit is fun because I remember hearing it and I was like, because he's actually spitting too from like their point of view. It's not like some funny shit. It's like,
No, it's a
there's
serious.
someone,
He's talking about his mom, like finding out he's
yeah,
getting murdered and shit. It's a real
yeah, and
song.
like
Yeah.
seeing your boys getting shot down the street and shit. Yeah, like I thought it was super cool. So no, I've definitely heard that. Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
I
Because I
love that shit,
remember
man.
that's just like I had to ask that from when I came
Yeah,
out
yeah,
type shit.
dude,
Yeah.
that's a classic, man. That's a classic.
Yeah. Yeah. Free Dirk.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you said you're a homebody, last thing. What are you
Yeah,
nerdy about? Are you a movie guy, video game
dude.
guy,
Yeah,
music
no,
guy?
I'm a sports guy. I'm a movie guy. I'm a TV show guy. I'm about to get into the second season of Severance. I'm like just rewatching the first season right now,
I'm
just to
waiting
get a
for it
little
all to come
refresher.
out. I have to wait for it all to
I
come out.
know
Can't
I'm
wait.
kind of the same way too, but no,
I
I
feel like
am
such a
like
baby
one of
being like, I have to wait every week for a
no,
TV show. Like,
I'm the same way. But on that note, it's like, yeah, that's like kind of one of my rituals is like at the end of the night after I'm done working or done, meetings or studio, like I gotta go home and just unwind, lay on my couch, put on a movie, get some grub, and just like chill out. Like that's kind of like I need that. I can't just like go hard, and then just like go to sleep. I need like a moment to like just breathe and relax for me. So yeah, dude, I
what
love
type of
movies, man.
movies?
I'm a big man, all kind. I love like all kinds, bro. Like action, drama, like all the I'm not direct. If it's a good director, like all the Tarantino stuff, I love. Like all the Scorsese stuff, obviously. Like any big actor, like De Niro, like Pacino. Like I'm studying, like watching all these movies. Like yeah,
Have you
I
seen
I
Anora
love that
yet?
stuff. Yeah, I had not seen Anora yet.
I even
It's
got
on
the
my
t-shirt on
list.
today. I feel bad that I'm bringing it.
Oh,
I
dude,
got the Anora t-shirt on today, but I
no,
I
I
love
definitely
that
gotta. I
movie.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not the first one to say that. Out of the new movies I've watched recently, I watched what did I see? I saw something that was pretty good. Juror number two, the Clint Eastwood movie
Oh, I haven't
that
seen
just came
that.
out. It was decent. And then Gladiator 2 to me was like, yeah, like I don't know. It was too much CGI for me. And the first one's just a classic.
Yeah, I'm not a big period piece guy because I don't like people
Yeah, yeah, I
talking
feel
like
that.
how they don't actually talk when they're like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Doth,
for sure.
Doth. Yeah, I hate if you use the word Doth in your movie, I'm not gonna like it.
Yeah. Oh, dude, and then I watched The Apprentice. It's the Donald Trump movie with
Oh, wait, that's on the
Sebastian
top of my
Stan.
list. Is that good?
Oh, dude, yes. You gotta
All
watch
right,
like
I'll
young.
watch that
Yeah,
one.
he plays the young Don pretty well, and then you got oh my God, what's his name? Jeremy, right? Jeremy Strong, who plays
From
uh from Succession.
Succession, yeah.
He plays Roy Cohn, and yeah, it's done well. But yeah, dude, I love unwinding and listening, and like sports too. I'm a big like basketball guy, big tennis guy. I like got into golf recently, so I've been like obsessed with golf, like trying to get my swing down right and
Yeah,
everything.
you kind of you got the hat. You got that's like the
Yeah,
golf
yeah. I
hat.
got like the
Yeah, I feel like
Premier
you're.
League soccer, yeah, football hat, and yeah,
Oh, is
like
that a sock? Oh, it's a football hat. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But like that's like yeah, I love that's like my two worlds is like music and sports. Well, three worlds like movies. Like I love all that shit, man.
Are you a
It's
stand-up
you
guy at
you
all?
gotta know, dude. Yeah, yeah. I'm not like super locked into like all the people, but all the classics I've seen, and I love the new guys too, like Shane Gillis and shit like that. Like
So
I'm watching all
funny.
I'm tapping into all that stuff and like Kill Tony stuff. Like that stuff to me is great. Yeah.
I love that. The first time I ever did stand-up, like 8 years ago, was on Kill Tony when they were a tiny little podcast.
Wow.
Yeah,
How
like
was that?
amazing. They weren't even known. Like it was like 30 people in
Yeah.
a tiny little room. So Tony,
Wow.
however people, whatever. I don't even want to get into it.
It was probably still outrageous though.
It was still super outrageous, but he's always been so nice off camera and supportive. So
That's dope.
yeah,
That's dope, man.
yeah.
Hell yeah, bro.
But bro, thank you so much for doing this. This was a
Oh
great
man.
conversation. I really appreciate
Yeah,
you
dude.
telling all your stories and coming on the podcast.
Nah, man, thank you for having me, man. Like we were talking about, like I don't do interviews much, so I'm glad this is like the first one I'm doing. And like let me know, man. I'm down to hop on anytime or talk about whatever the fuck, you know.
Awesome.
We
Maybe
talk
we
about
can do one in person
current
sometime.
culture or something. Oh, I would
Yeah.
love to. I
Yeah.
would
If
love
you're
to.
ever in Massachusetts or
Yeah, yeah.
we're out there.
I'm gonna make a trip to New York probably at the end of the month. Um, I don't know when I'm gonna get to Massachusetts, but man, if you ever come down to New York too, man, let me know. We can probably link up there and do
Awesome,
something
man.
cool, you know?
Dope.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, man. Everyone listening, check out the album. It's coming out when?
Thank you, man. March 7th is the album home, full album homebody. Right now you can stream the first single, Why Should I, with Juicy J, Drum, and Guap Dad, and my boy Clint. And up until the album and stuff, I'm gonna keep posting stuff on social media and dropping a bunch of content. But and hey, man, appreciate you for having me, dude. It was a great convo.